Good morning, everyone. Oh, you almost said that loud enough for me not to do the thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Good morning, everyone. Yay! Are you ready to talk about the holidays? Christmas, yeah, all right. So today, the service is called One If by Land, Two If by Sea. The holidays are coming, the holidays are coming. My name is the Reverend Mandy Goheen, and I welcome you whether you're in this space online or watching later. I'm so glad you're joining us today. My pronouns are she, her, and it is my great honor to serve this congregation as its settled minister. Our opening words are by Benjamin Franklin. It is time, oh no it's not, those were my words. I just almost read, it is time to dust off the costumes. That was a little mistake. I'm going to read that anyway. Bake pie and hang the tinsel because the holiday season is upon us. How will it work this year? Who will we see? What will we cook? When will we back out? There's so much to figure out and plan for. And today we're going to be adding some courage to our resilience toolbox and be thoughtful about our capacity. Let's get ready to let go of a perfect holiday trope and lean into meaningful imperfection together. So today we're going to be talking about being good mistake makers. Oof. All right. And now Benjamin Franklin, speaking of a mistake. Perhaps the history of the errors of mankind, all the things to consider, is more valuable and interesting than all of their discoveries. The truth is uniform and narrow. It consistently exists and does not seem to require much active energy as passive aptitude of the soul in order to encounter it. But error is endlessly diversified. It has no reality, but is the pure and simple creation of the mind that invents it. It is this field, the soul, has room enough to expand herself, to display her boundless faculties and all her beautiful and interesting extravagances and absurdities. Now, this was from Benjamin Franklin, and it was a report to the King of France on the examination of animal magnetism. So, interesting. It is our tradition to light a chalice in congregations that celebrate Unitarian Universalism all over the United States, all over the world. It marks our time beginning together, and I would like to put someone on the spot named the Reverend Pam Johnson and invite her to come light our chalice as I do. Pam is our settled community minister, and she's part of the lay pastoral care team, not lay, I guess pastoral care team, as is Wendy Sapp over there. Very wonderful people to have in your life. Please join me in our chalice lighting. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And please rise in body and or spirit as is your desire and join us in number 311 in the gray hymnal, Let It Be a Dance. And it's okay if you dance, and it's okay if you dance bad. Mistakes are also welcome today.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, share the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Woo, thank you. Please be seated. So, this is our time for all ages. If you want to come up and sit here, you can, but I'm just going to be talking so you can do whatever you want. You're welcome to come closer or even sit right here with me if you want to be up front. I can come down a little ways. Oh, come on down. All right. So, does anybody have a cat? Two? Okay. You have one, but now you have two. That happens. Yeah, do you have a cat? A long time ago, you never had a cat? Yes, sir. You have many cats, I think. I have 7 cats. 7 cats. 5 dead, 2 alive. All right, so I also have 2 cats, and I had no idea I was a cat person until about 1.5 years ago. I'm a cat person, and not too long ago, my cat got out at night and didn't come back, and I was so worried. His name's Smokey Joe Biden. He was missing. He got locked under our neighbor's building for 8 days. And I was so worried that I almost gave up on him, but that would have been a mistake. Because one of the things we say in our house is Goonies never give up, but also, just not giving up on people who are lost or need us is important. Okay, so let's talk about a cat named Marmalade. But first, let's start out with telling you about Whitman Jones. Whitman Jones had just turned 9. That was good, but he was going to a new school in a new town, and that was bad. In his old school, he knew everyone. They had been in classes with him for years. In the new school, he didn't know one single person. Not only that, the first day didn't go well at all. Whitman Jones, the teacher called out. Whitman, why, that's an unusual name. You can call me Whit, he said quickly, hoping that it was helpful. All right, Whit, I'll do that. Thank you, the teacher said. And his classmates made funny noises. They didn't seem to be any way to explain to them that Whitman was named after his grandfather. At recess, a very tall boy in Whitman's class came over. His name was Eric Smith. He was really tall and kind of clunky, and he moved slow, and sometimes he bumped into things, and he had very, very red hair. Whitman had never seen such large freckles in his life. Eric said, Whit, no, wait. What? He laughed. And then he said, Whit, what, whatever. He laughed again, and Whitman knew it wasn't a nice laugh, and he looked down. Hey, whatever. Where'd you get those clothes? He plucked at Whitman's shirt, and it was kind of scary. Bet you got them at Walmart. Sure, whatever. Where's whatever? From Walmart. He laughed, and he clunked away. Whitman didn't know what to do, but luckily the bell rang, and recess was over. After that, he tried to avoid Eric. He didn't look at him. He didn't raise his hand if Eric had already raised his. He spent the beginning of lunch in the boys' bathroom so Eric wouldn't still be in line looking for a seat. Once in a while, Eric would shout, whatever, across the schoolyard at recess. Whitman tried to concentrate on his lessons. He practiced his spelling and some arithmetic in his head as he walked home. One day, he saw a piece of paper on a telephone pole. It had a picture of something. When he got close, he saw it was a picture of a lost cat. And it said on the paper, the cat was orange and its name was Marmalade. Do you know what marmalade is? It's like jelly that grown-ups like made out of orange peels. I'm not a grown-up. So the cat's name was Marmalade because it was an orange stripy cat. He wouldn't want to lose his cat or dog if he had one, and he thought if some kid must be pretty unhappy. The next day on his way home, Whitman heard something. And this is like what happened to me. I finally heard Smokey. Whitman heard something. It was a very small sound. And he had trouble figuring out. That's a good impression of that. She's like doing a little small squealing sound. And he had to listen and figure out what direction it came from. And he saw a cardboard box next to the curb, and the sound was coming from that. He went and looked inside the box, and shivering cold was a small cat. Meow, it said hopefully. Meow yourself, said Whitman. You must be freezing in there. Come on, let me pick you up. The cat was shivering, but not so much that he couldn't dig his claws into Whitman's jacket. Have you ever picked up a cat that didn't want to be picked up? Yeah. Whitman said, okay, it's going to be okay. Let's get you home. And there was an address on the poster, so he knew where to go. The orange cat was obviously the one that was lost. I'll take you home and you'll be fine. Meow, said the cat. Ouch, said Whitman. Take it easy as he dug his claw into his shoulder. The address wasn't far, but of course Whitman didn't know if anyone would be home. So he rang the doorbell and waited and rang it again and waited. And then he thought he could see someone tall and clunky coming. When the door opened, he had a real scare. It was Eric, the nasty guy from school who made fun of him. Eric said, "Whatever, get off my porch." And then he saw the cat. And then Eric cried out, "Marmalade!" And he almost shouted. Whitman held the cat straight out at arm's length so that he could have it. And he started to back off. Here, he's yours. Eric grabbed the cat, tucked it under his chin for a moment, closed his eyes, and rocked the cat in his arms. Then Whitman turned, ready to see in case Eric came after him. Eric said, wait a minute. Let me tell my mom. And he went inside, but left the door half open. Whitman stood on the porch, kind of nervous. Mom, Marmalade's back. Somebody from school brought him. Can we have some cookies? He hardly waited for the answer. Come on, he said to Whitman. It's cold out there. Still carrying the cat quite snugly. He led Whitman to the kitchen. The cookies were still cooling. You know how good that smells when cookies are cooling on that rack? They were still cooling. And Eric said, want some milk? Whitman nodded. Sit, said Eric. He got paper towels for each of them and brought the cookies over, and then he poured a glass of milk for each of them and a bowl of milk for Marmalade. When they'd eaten the last 2 cookies, Eric said, thanks for bringing Marmalade back. She'd never been outside before. I guess she got lost. And then he said, I was sick all last year, and I had to lie in bed. Marmalade used to lie on my chest and purr, and it helped a lot. That helped Whitman understand something about Eric, why he was so big and pudgy and awkward. It's because he'd been in bed for a year. Wow, he said, that must have been some year. Are you okay now? Yeah, said Eric, I'm pretty okay now. And then Eric looked down and said, I'm sorry I made fun of your name. Whitman could see Eric was really sorry, and so he said, whatever. And Eric looked at him as though he had gotten 2 gifts in one, his cat back and a new friend. And they laughed and laughed at Whitman's joke. And Whitman said, it's so weird that we both have such unusual first names, Whitman and Eric. And they laughed again. But our last names are so common, Jones and Smith. You're right, said Eric. And then they ate some more cookies and more milk, and Marmalade had some more milk, but no cookies. The end. And now it's time for anyone who is a school-age human, if they would choose to go downstairs for religious education. We're going to sing a song, and you can meet some people in the back. I see Wendy and Camille. If you want to head on back for Ari and some fun downstairs, there's Sally. Look at all those people. And I invite the congregation to sing them on their way. And this is a time in our service that we set aside what's around us and take a little time for quiet, reflection, and deepening. I'll ring the bowl, and we'll sit for 2 minutes in silence. You can let your thoughts come or go. You can just take the space to look out the windows at the colors, listen to the traffic as if it was the ocean, or just the breathing of this community. This is a time in our service where you're welcome to come forward and light a candle. You can light a candle for a joy or concern, but I specifically would like you to think about lighting a candle for a recent mistake that you've made, and how much light a candle for learning and growth from those mistakes. I'm going to ask Pam again to come forward and help us light candles. If you're online and you'd like a candle lit, please just say so in the text, and I'd love to do that for you. Please come forward and light a candle of transition for those mistakes and times in your week. So our reading today is from this amazing book, and I put the name of the book in the order of service. It's called Being Wrong by Catherine Schultz. And she says, however disorienting, difficult, or humbling our mistakes might be, it is ultimately wrongness, not rightness, that can teach us who we are. Catherine Schultz joined The New Yorker, this is the blurb about her from The New Yorker, as a staff writer in 2015. In 2016, she won the Pulitzer Prize featured writing in the National Magazine Award for The Really Big One. Her story about seismic risk in the Pacific Northwest. She's like very brilliant and a science writer. And her essays and reporting have appeared in the Best American Science and Nature Writing, Travel Writing, Food. She writes about Lost. She wrote a new book called Lost and Found about the death of her father, which I haven't read yet. But the name of the book is Being Wrong. And here is what I want to read to you about what she says about Benjamin Franklin, because that quote's actually in the beginning of her book. She says, given this certainty to our intellectual and emotional development, error shouldn't be an embarrassment and cannot be a distraction. On the contrary, as Benjamin Franklin observed in the quote that heads this book, wrongness is a window into normal human nature, into our imaginative minds, our mindless faculties, our extravagant souls. This book is staked on the soundness of that observation, that however disorienting, difficult, or humbling our mistakes might be, as I said, it is ultimately wrongness, not rightness, that can teach us who we are. Well, I want to start out with saying I was wrong about the book. I thought it was going to be like one of those gushy self-help books, and I was going to get some quippy, cute things to tell y'all about being wrong during the holidays. And this woman is a powerhouse intellectual, and I took some effort to read her words and really process the depth of being wrong and the importance of it in our lives. It has been my habit in the past when I talk about preparing for the holidays to talk about what to do when Uncle Joe Bob says the wrong dang thing and we have to get ready for it. What's our response going to be? And I always say we have to respond with love. We have to respond with kindness and understanding of context and blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes. But what we don't always work on is how to get ready when we're the one that's Uncle Joe Bob saying the wrong thing. Because you will, right? You will. Just like I was mistaken about this being some quippy, mushy book that we were going to all learn some quippy, mushy holiday skills from, it turned out that it's resilient and courageous to be wrong. And it takes some effort. But the coolest thing that I learned so far, because I'm going to have to keep reading this, is that the minute we figure out we're wrong, something changes. We're right. Oh, I was mistaken. The author talks about in her TED Talk that I did watch about driving across the country. And I could relate to this story because about 2,000 miles into her journey with her friend, she leaned over and she said, "Why is that Chinese character on the road everywhere?" And her friend looked at her completely baffled. And it turned out it was the national park sign for a picnic table. And for 2,000 miles, she thought it was some kind of Chinese character and she didn't get what was going on. Sometimes we're so wrong, right? I can relate to this because I, camping cross country with my kids, at one point finally figured out that the sign with the trailer in brown means you can camp there, not just park your horse trailer, which is what I thought. There's some joy in being wrong sometimes, isn't there? When we find out we have the wrong perception of things, when we find out that we've learned something new. Song lyrics are a big one, right? That we get wrong, like totally, totally wrong. I like to say that I was 25 years old when I figured out Kenny Rogers' lyric wasn't when in his song, "You Picked a Fine Time to Leave Me, Lucille," which tells you where I grew up. I thought he was saying that she had left him with 400 children and a crop in the field. And I kept wondering my whole life, like, really? 400 children? It's awkward to make mistakes. It's funny. It brings us joy. It brings us learning. You know, Thomas Edison, when he was developing the light bulb, he went through thousands of filaments, and his assistant got very, very distracted by that. And he's like, oh, I can't take this. This is so monotonous. I can't keep doing this. And Thomas Edison is like, oh, we just eliminated those 1,000. We're okay. The future's in front of us because of those mistakes. Our culture's based on mistaken conceptions, too. And I think about the American Revolution, for example, like I referred to in the title. And I think about the Paul Revere story. Who knows who Paul Revere is? Right? Like he rode and he said, the British are coming, the British. Why would a man ride through town saying the British were coming if he was British? That's not what he said. The regulars are coming. Regulars were British soldiers in red uniforms. Not the British are coming. They were already there. It didn't make sense. Not only that, he didn't even make it the whole ride. Not only that, there were many midnight riders. There were women. There were all kinds of folks who sounded the alarm, who let us know it was coming. And I want to sound the alarm. The holidays are coming whether we want it or not. And we're going to buy someone the wrong present, and they're going to be ungrateful. Ooh, we might bake the cheesecake different, the wrong way. But these mistakes present us with opportunities. Not just the opportunity to learn from them, but to create new rituals, new holidays, new embracing of imperfection. Some of the best recipes come from mistakes, right? When you accidentally add the wrong thing. Some of the worst recipes do too. Okra doesn't go in casserole. I'm just saying, unless you like slimy textures. So, we learn, we build new traditions together, and without making those mistakes, without being wrong, we can't grow. But the funny thing is that we're always so daggone surprised when we're wrong, aren't we? And the other metaphor that Schultz gives us is Wile E. Coyote. You know how Wile E. Coyote is chasing the Roadrunner over and over and over again every daggone time. He runs off the cliff, and he's not a bird still, and he falls. But the amazing point is, so many times in our lives, we're that coyote. We're standing over the air, and we don't know we're wrong. And until we notice we're wrong, we don't even fall. And so one of the things about being wrong is when we notice is our behavior. We can be snippy, we can be defensive, we can blame other people, we can use placations, like, we're just going to have to agree to disagree about whether I'm right or wrong. Well, that's your opinion. I personally don't believe that. But sometimes when we say those things, we're saying them because we need an out from falling from the air and making a mistake, and that's where we get it mixed up. We are not a mistake. We make mistakes because we're people. We make mistakes, and it takes courage to make mistakes, and it takes even more courage to say you're sorry in a good way. Now, some mistakes are embarrassing, and some mistakes are hard to forget, but the last mistake you made, thinking about what it was, the last mistake you made, you easily forget because of that thing I talked about where all of a sudden, once you know you made the mistake, you're right again. So what if we, during this holiday season, take a little pause in that wrongness and see what there is there to learn extra? You know, I have been in many situations that are pretty embarrassing, and I have made some wrong choices, and when I was thinking about this sermon, I was like, what is that story I want to tell about being wrong and how I acted? If you haven't already guessed, my defense mechanism is humor. So oftentimes when I'm wrong, I try to make no big deal out of it or turn it into a joke. Well, when I was in high school, it was my job to keep the stats for soccer. And if you know anything about me, I know nothing about sports, and no one should have let me do that. What it really was is my friends and I were going to sneak out of the box thing over the field and go around behind the school. I'm not filling in the blanks. And then we noticed as we were behind the school that my car's on the other side of the 6-foot fence. Well, my perception of myself is way different than reality, always has been. And as my friends climb and jump the fence, I go right behind them, climbing a 6-foot fence. And it was the 90s. Remember those low-crotched pants? It was too late. It was way too late. I was hanging by the crotch of my pants from a fence in high school. And I acted like nothing happened. I walked to my car. My dad said when I drove up, "Why are you here?" I said, "Don't ask me." I changed my pants, drove back to the school, went to where I was supposed to be keeping score of the soccer game, and acted like nothing happened. Now, I love telling that story because it's hilarious. Somebody was hanging by their pants from a fence, for crying out loud. And I'm sure there were many things to learn from that story. And I haven't climbed another 6-foot fence, so that was a good one. But like the idea that we shut down when we're embarrassed and we pretend like something didn't happen. And, you know, what happened to me is not a big deal, but sometimes our mistakes are hurting other people. Sometimes we accidentally diss the pumpkin pie that was handed down from the Pilgrims, that our grandma's sister's cousin made, but nobody told us the story. And we really step in it, and we make a mistake. And then we start getting defensive. "Oh, well, I didn't know that. That's your fault for not telling me that that was your grandpa's famous pie recipe. I didn't do anything wrong." Or worse yet, we look for other places to blame. I don't want to be an anti-racist. It's too hard and uncomfortable. And I don't want to be wrong in front of a bunch of people that don't believe the same way I believe. I don't want to stand up for queer folks because that's uncomfortable, and I don't want somebody who thinks they're right to tell me I'm wrong. So it takes bravery to be wrong, and it especially takes bravery when you mess something up to say you're sorry, but not with the little smart alecky tone that I often have. "I'm sorry. My grandmother bought me a watch one time from the pharmacy in Minford, Ohio. High-quality watches, y'all. Good quality watches. And she got all of us and my cousins all a watch. And they were $10 watches. And mine broke. And I said to my cousin, 'Can you believe these watches are so cheap?' And I had no idea that what I was saying was hurting my grandma because that was what she had the money to buy me. I thought I was complaining about the inhumanity of bad watches, about on my high horse about poor construction and why there wasn't good quality watches in Minford, Ohio to get for your grandkids on Christmas. Boy, that lesson I did not be quiet about. I made excuses. I dug the hole deeper and deeper, as all-knowing 17-year-olds generally do. Sorry, friends. We like to dig our holes. We like to be right. It took me a long time to understand that I was wrong, that it was more important that she bought me the watch, that was a sacrifice. That lady had 26 grandkids. That's a lot of watches for $10, right? That's a lot of care and sacrifice for people who are farmers, salt of the earth, who don't have anything. But that's not the perspective we learn. We learn the perspective of what is a mistake, what is right, what is wrong. And as in lots of things around here and in lots of things, it takes bravery not to be certain of our rightness or wrongness. It takes bravery to know that there is a middle ground, and it takes bravery to understand that each person in this room and online and wherever, in our mind, we know what's right. And it's not the same exact truth as the person right next to you. We all have our context of the world. We all know that what we grew up in creates a situation where we contextualize. We know that we're in this space today, and we get to run our mouths a little bit about being liberal and being right in this space. But when we're out in public, sometimes that gets a little scary, and we have to be brave enough to do it. Brave enough to be wrong. Or even worse yet, brave enough to let someone else think we're wrong, even when we know we're right, which we often do know we're right. It is surprising how long this has been talked about. It's surprising how much we don't pay attention to it, but I love that Catherine Schultz coined the phrase for her book, wrongology. Isn't that neat? What if we were wrongologists during the holidays? We studied what was around us and how we could lean into mistakes and make things beautiful. How maybe this year we're going to use sprigs that we cut down instead of a Christmas tree. Heck, maybe this year we're going to be brave enough not to celebrate a specific holiday that bothers us and create something completely new, even though it feels wrong or somebody else might think we're wrong for that. And then we can be brave enough to invite them in. Isn't it weird that everything takes courage? We talked about last week, kindness takes courage. And now I'm saying being wrong takes courage? Ugh. It's courageous. It's courageous to admit your mistakes. It's hard work. I'd so much rather blame other people. And it's cultural, and there's kind of a quippy thing they say about people in prison, right? Nobody did it. That's human nature. Instead of being critical of all the people in prison because they talk like that, think about that as how we behave too. Oftentimes we are that coyote suspended in the air and not willing to notice that we're wrong. And when we're like that, we can really hurt some folks. Noticing when we're wrong and listening and being brave and being kind are the tools we need for the holidays this year. Being brave enough not to celebrate what hurts us, being brave enough to speak the truth to that, being brave enough to invite people in even when it's scary, even when you think they might think you're wrong. That would be a good gift, wouldn't it? To welcome someone in a new way. Welcome them into, hey, this is not going to be perfect, but here's what I think might happen today. The Christmas plan. What if that was the Christmas plan? Come on. Here's the things I'd like to happen. Or what do you need to happen today to make this a good day for you? Let's be flexible. Let's be nimble. Let's be resilient together. And if you see me standing in the air next to a cliff, be my friend and let me know, because sometimes I don't notice. Not in a mean way, not in a shaming way, oh, you're wrong, but in a, hey, see, you're standing in the air. You want to come back over here before you fall? Look at what's going on around you. I think that is helpful today in the context. We're going to have a little political discussion after church, talk about some of the misconceptions about what is going to be voted on in the next election. I think voting is another one of those things where you're not 100% right no matter what you do, but you lean towards the most right you can be. Be wrong. Be brave. Have a joyful, joyful holiday doing it. Don't forget to laugh. And don't forget to say thank you. May it be so, and blessed be. And now, speaking of wrong, you're not wrong. I'm not saying that. I have a hard time believing Jennifer when she says this is the right song, but she said it has some good things in it about what we're doing. You want to talk about the song? Did I skip everything? I skipped everything. I skipped the offertory. That would be so wrong. I really didn't do that on purpose either. Okay, thank you. I often skip the it's all right. But the offertory is so important because it's kind of like our little sacrament in Unitarian Universalism to support our values with our money, with our time, and with our treasure, and with our talent, and all the things we have available, giving resources to this place so that we can keep being wrong joyously together. So, not really. So we can be in beloved community, and when we make mistakes, we have this awesome thing called covenant. That is another thing that makes this place wonderful. So please give generously to our mission, our covenant, and the joy of being together. Please join me in our offertory response that can be found in your order of service. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice and act with compassion, embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. And now I'll try the song thing again. It's number 90 in the hymnal, and it's from All the Fret and Fever. The title is hilarious to me. So please rise in body and spirit or spirit in home and here and join us in our closing hymn.
From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away, and deaf to all confusing outer din, intently listen for the voice within. In quietness and solitude we find the soundless moments of the deeper mind. With clear harmonious purpose, let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
Seated. This song has a good point. We do need to take some time for reflection and quietness during the holidays. I think that is very helpful. Some time to ponder. Some time to ponder. So what? There's always these funny memes this time of year, like on the front of the order of service. And my favorite one is always there's a manger scene and there's a zombie in it. But that's okay. It's okay to change things. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make new traditions. It's okay to say you're sorry. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, I love you. It's especially okay to say, I'm sorry, I love you. I don't quite get what you're saying. You might hear that from me. Can you unpack that for me? Like, think of some strategies. If we're going to strategize, let's strategize our responsive apology. Let's strategize our curiosity and our bravery and our kindness. Let's think about how we're going to lean into this holiday season in the comfort that we have with boundaries, but also in a way that we are fed and rested and we have some time for pondering and reflection. And here's my best holiday advice. Don't have fights with people unless they're there to do it with you. That is my other awful gift. Is I will make the mistake repeatedly of assuming you think I'm wrong and going through the whole dialogue of how we're going to discuss that without including you in it. So if you have any little silly habits like that that kind of hold you up, that put you in the space of only being comfortable being completely right, practice. It helps. Be curious, it helps. Be brave. But most of all, be loving. And that is my so what for today. It is time to extinguish our chalice. That it brings a symbology to the end of our time together. But I love the words that we read. Please join me in the chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. So I have a little announcement. I'm kidding. It's nothing that exciting. Yeah, I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. Not gone. Next week is, oh, right, I forgot about that. That surprised me. Surprise! Next week, we have Kate Caldwell, who's going to be speaking from the Mind Body Institute. And then Reverend Pam will be the week after. And then the week after that is Reverend John Coffey, who is a delight. He's from Oak Ridge, and he works for Meadville Lombard Theological School, so he should have some really interesting things to say. I am still around. I am going on retreat starting tonight for an overnight in the woods, more deep in the woods than I already live now. And then in about a week, my mom's going to have surgery, so I'll be in Ohio for a week. But I'll still be around in Zoom meetings, and I'll still be available if anyone wants to chat, talk about joining the church or what to get your grandma for Christmas or whatever. I don't know. I'm here to help. I'm also really good at listening to whining, so if you want to do that, especially if I get a turn. So, yeah, I would love to talk to you. This week, there's a lot of things on your slippery order of service on the back. There's a social justice workshop today. We're going to hear more about that in a minute. Standing out in Miller Park, staff meeting. I won't be at this staff meeting. Yeah, and the potluck is on Wednesday night. This is such a good place to invite your friends or to come if you're just joining us or trying the church out. It's a wonderful place to sit down and have a meal together, a little chat, a little food. I think that Andre and I are cooking this week. So please come Wednesday night. The Chattanooga Community Youth Meeting is actually on Thursday at 6 p.m. Do you want to say anything else about that or do a little dance or whatever? Wait. I'll turn the microphone on.
Good morning. I'm Camille, the Director of Religious Education. We are going to have our second community youth meeting, and it's going to be this Thursday at 6 p.m. So it should be super fun.
Here?
Yes.
Here.
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 Yes. So it'll be awesome. Yes. The order is service is wrong. And you know what? Mistakes happen.
Also not a plant. That was not a plant.
So yes, and yesterday we had our pumpkin carving, which was really fun and awesome. So if you have kids or a member of the RE community, we have lots of fun things going on. So check out the newsletter, look at Facebook. We always have something going for our kids and their families.
Yay. Anyone else have any? Oh, one announcement back there and then you. Okay. Oh, I'm letting you go last. All right. Yay. Here comes Talia.
Hey, everybody. A friend of mine, and she's just coming in right now. Her name's Jill Whites, and she works on the No on One campaign. And she volunteered to come and talk about her work on that campaign and explain the other amendments so we can be informed voters. And so she's walking in now, and I think what we were thinking we would do is let people grab a cup of coffee if they want and then come sit down. So maybe in about 5 minutes or so, if you're interested, come back here and she'll explain the amendments to you and answer any questions.
I just noticed that the Friday night movie night, we're not going to do the potluck because last time it just didn't work out very well for folks to have the time. So it will start at 7. And if you want to bring popcorn or something like that, that's great. And I if all works right, we're going to watch a film on voting instead of the one that we have on the, we'll watch that one later. And the social justice meeting starts at 1 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to be coming up with ideas of things to do for the environment. And we'll have, yeah, there we go. There's the earth for folks to look at. So thank you.
I don't want it, but thank you. You can just keep it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm pretty good at this. Sadie has an announcement. Phew, thank goodness. Yeah, just pass it down.
Just a quickie, as long as we're correcting times on the sheet.
Get your pens out, everyone.
I had nothing to do with it. The Friday night, 27th, the Chattanooga Community Earth meeting is actually a Sierra Club meeting, but we will be talking about community, youth, and climate change. So small change.
I think we should just bring whiteboard. Maybe we should just get whiteboard order of services so y'all can change according to menu. There you go. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today, both in person. I got it. It's fine. It's okay. It's gone. All right. I just want to thank everyone for coming today and joining this community. I think that having a place where we can discuss strategies for being better people in the world is important. I really love that we're getting some clarification on voting. I think that's great. I want to say that this place is awesome, and I think voting is really becoming our thing. It's like voting the earth. Like, I just love how we're getting into these grooves of really making some change and having something to do besides talk about how right I am. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful week. If you need anything, let us know in the office, and it was just so good to see you today.